Who is that in that scenario? You're a Compass agent. You used it, not me.
Yeah. Yep.
And so do I have a property that another Compass agent might represent the buyer for? Who is that really good for?
Hello and welcome to / Real Estate. I'm Chris, your host, and we have a returning guest. Theresa, you're back.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
First, we're going to talk about pocket listings, exclusive listings, which it seems like there's a bit of drama going on in the real estate world right now around this entire topic.
And here's the thing. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but I am a student of this industry.
Yeah.
This is my 25th year in real estate. I mean, I started very young, obviously, but I just notice things and I read a lot, and I'm very interested in how this industry is ever evolving. And when you're new to the industry and you're really focused on your next transaction, which is appropriate, you might not have the perspective that someone with a lot of years in and someone who absorbs a lot of information. So I'm not trying to be dramatic or pick a fight, but I notice who is. So here's the thing. Right now what's going on is a lot of the big companies have kind of suddenly launched their private or exclusive listings, and only agents in their brokerage can see those listings.
Right.
This is a direct violation of NAR's clear cooperation rule. So what is really the challenge? Are these big brokerages trying to challenge NAR to see if NAR is going to enforce that rule? Is this a sign that NAR's weaker than it used to be, which I think is probably accurate based on the lawsuit pummeling that NAR's taken? So, and then I'm seeing in some regions, different brokerages are kind of using their stance on these pocket listings or private listings to pummel each other. So it's very fascinating.
At the same time that NAR and that whole settlement is like, look, you guys can't. I guess I'm trying to wrap my mind around all the nuances for this, right?
Oh yeah.
So it kind of seems like, the high level of the NAR settlement is, hey, you guys can't be cooperating in a way that's negative for the consumer. And then it kind of seems like, if you just follow the marketing logic from someone that's outside the industry, having private listings seems like a good idea, because it means that if you're a Compass agent, you might have something that's not available, that's off the market.
But Chris, devil's advocate, who is that in that scenario? You're a Compass agent. You used it, not me.
Yeah. Yep.
And so do I have a property that another Compass agent might represent the buyer for? Who is that really good for?
Yeah. Well, it's good for Compass.
It's good for Compass.
Right.
And who is a national brokerage that's not profitable? Also Compass.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying it can work out well for that home seller.
Right.
But could that home seller have gotten the same or better result on the open market?
Yeah.
With, using marketing logic outside the real estate industry, you do generally think the more eyes you have on a product, the more in demand it will be.
So, and again, I'm I don't think I have an opinion on this. I think I'm just trying to wrap my mind around what's happening.
Yeah, I have an opinion. I see other sides, but...
So would you think, not that, I think a lot of us, so maybe the logic would go that wouldn't the selling agent and the seller themselves have a strategic discussion and decide whether or not to go down that path? Now granted, there's a bunch of caveats on that, on how much the seller actually understands the market.
Correct.
Or I guess I'm trying to figure out which components of this am I missing to feel the full impact of the drama.
So I think for an average seller, my strong opinion is they're going to get the best result on the open market, get the most eyeballs on that. For certain sellers, perhaps in a particular price range, there may be extreme issues of privacy.
Right.
In a particular issue on the other side of the spectrum, there could be issues with, hoarding and a property not being, easy to show, really ready for open market, but they need to sell for a specific reason.
Right.
So in unique
and we're going to talk about niches. So it's unique situations, meaning super high-end privacy of the seller might be important, or it's just at a price point that's not going to move very quickly, or
or temperament of the seller. Maybe there's like a blended family. There's illness in the family. They just can't handle showing 18 dogs. Who knows?
Or a wholesale deal anyway.
Right.
Something like that.
So while I'm willing to say there are certain situations where that's, not going on the open market makes sense, I think for what these currently being really touted in the news and within these companies is it's just a marketing ploy.
Right.
It's something that agent can tell their seller they're going to do for them, and that they're explaining it as a benefit when it really is just a way that agent is using to differentiate themselves from another agent at a different company that perhaps doesn't offer them. So it's a way to get the listing.
Yeah. It seems like a weird difference. And again, I probably should be careful here because I'm, trying to digest this. But yeah, it kind of seems, again, as a marketing guy, it's like the differentiation is closing down the audience. And so, typically, if I think about just like, marketing 101, where you want reach and frequency, so like widest reach possible, it does kind of seem weird unless you were trying to manipulate the way that it appears on the MLS, so it was actually for sale longer, but the MLS appeared like it was only listed for a...
Well, let's talk about that.
Okay.
That is accurate. Yeah. I think that's a valid point. And to your point, if you as an agent aren't confident in your pricing strategy, having a pocket listing or I'll test the market at this price listing makes more sense. Now, again, if a property is extremely unique, perhaps there's a place for that.
Right.
But I would submit that for your kind of average listing, which I think, most people are dealing with, you as an agent need to be able to analyze the comps, anticipate the market, create a pricing strategy, and get your seller to commit to that. I think what's happening in many cases is, the agent believes the list price should be here. Seller says, I really wanted this. And this allows the agent to say, okay, we'll list here. We'll test the market without really putting it on the market. So again, is this really a proven marketing strategy, or is this a way for a lesser skilled or less confident agent to not have to tell their seller what they really need to hear, which is this isn't the price, this is.
Right. Yeah, that is actually an interesting point.
We spend a lot of time in our brokerage on pricing strategy. In fact, every month we meet as a group for pricing council where we talk about listings we have that are coming soon, and we all work together to come up with a pricing strategy that each one of us, here's what I would look at, here's what I would look at. And that listing agent comes away with that with a lot of information and a lot of perspective to talk to that seller. And I think that some brokerages and some agents just don't have that attention to the pricing strategy.
So if potentially you're selling in a more closed situation, right? Because I think if an agent had approached me and said look, we can try doing this sort of private market. It's starting to feel a little bit like private exchanges on the stock market, like dark pools, and maybe you'll sell it at a premium over there. We could test that. That sounds interesting to me. And then you're not leaving maybe the paper trail everywhere else.
Sure, the days on market aren't stacking up.
Right. Or there's a price reduction.
Right.
Something like that.
But also, let's say that private market experience at the higher price, the pie in the sky price, let's say that was a 2 or 3 week experiment. Unless that house is vacant, as a listing agent, I've now spent my photography has already been done. I mean, if this is really being done to sell the house during that private, you had it on point at that moment in time. Now you're 2 or 3 weeks in, maybe you've had some showings, maybe you've had some letdowns. Now I go to the open market at the lower price and my sellers are already potentially fatigued. My house might not be sparkly clean like it was 3 weeks ago. And I mean, how long is that? 6 weeks, 3 weeks? I don't know. The pricing strategy at the time that we listed or private listed, what has the market done in that 3 or 6 week period? Or maybe the pie in the sky price is now it's even lower than
you
what we
need
thought.
To position that with your client of this is the pre-release right?
Right.
Yeah, and then we're going to go to the full release where the excitement should be hopefully higher because it's a broader market, something like that.
So, Chris, if you're not bringing the bang at the beginning of the launch,
right,
why even do it? I mean, you've got one time to launch a listing.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my thing.
Well, it's something I guess I hadn't thought about, which is like the energy level of the seller, not because I like whenever exposed to this question would think more about like the energy being pushed out into the market at potential buyers.
Well, I can tell you, Chris, whether it's, a high end, low end, middle end, every seller is very excited that first weekend their house is on the market. And if you don't have feedback, you don't have showings, you don't have an open house, I guess it's possible that you as a listing agent would create a massive mindset change with a seller, enrolling them in the private listing concept. But with the breadth of price ranges and property types that I'm seeing this happen in right now, I'm seeing them advertised, even though I'm not with one of those companies. The agents in those companies are not shy about sharing these.
Which sort of undercuts it, because it's like, okay, are they still like reaching out to, tell you about it?
Oh, I'm getting emails.
Yeah.
They're on socials. So it's...
Yeah.
So I just...
Where do you...
I don't know.
Think there's like... Okay, so thinking about the NAR lawsuit and the clear cooperation, maybe the spirit of that, like, do you think that this is like... Just maybe thinking about, yeah, exactly, the implications for that. Do you think it's like with the spirit of that?
Oh, no. It's
deeply against.
It's deeply against.
Yeah.
Clear cooperation states if it's in the MLS, it's open to every MLS member to see the details of that property. I think it's, I think my assumption is the thought process from these brokerages is NAR is so weak, they're not going to stand up to it.
Yeah.
And in fact, here in Austin, our board of realtors is making some changes that we're going to have a new type of listing called a flex listing that I think the details aren't fully out yet, but that's coming this year. And it will allow like a kind of a coming soon status, which I'm not really sure how that's going to work yet, but I'm intrigued.
Okay. We're going to have to come back to this one. This is a really interesting topic. I know, okay, so out there in the audience, you were probably, screaming at your YouTube, Facebook, whatever. So leave your comments, I'm sure this is going to be an ongoing discussion.
Yeah, if you're doing private listings within your brokerage and it's working fantastic and it's against, like, everything I said is wrong, I'd love to hear too.
Right. I know that there's profound opinions on, which, hey, real estate and big personalities and big opinions, who would have guessed? But yeah, exactly. I think I am looking for, as I always am, like on the podcast, like looking to try and figure out, like, how do you best use this, or like what would be the advisable, like, tactics on this, right? Is it something you want to avoid? Is it something that, if you can, you want to lean into, what are the pros and cons, things you have to consider, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's definitely causing a stir right now.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.